I asked my better half, so after having 7 kids, what did you learn about parenting? Without any hesitation, she says, obviously, absolutely nothing. As for me, I have no advice. A few general observations, though. It's a good idea, I think, to read a lot to your kids and to talk to them about all sorts of things. In the back of our house was an area that had some trees and an apartment building behind that. Our very young kids came in one day to warn us that there was a gun back there. They knew about guns. We had talked about it. We called the police right away, and when the officer got there, he determined that this gun was loaded. It was really fortunate, he said, that our kids knew how dangerous it would have been to pick this up. Another suggestion I would have is to never act out of pure anger. I can remember sitting at the dining room table with this distinguished gentleman from India, and the kids are excused to go out front and play on this very sunny day. So Helen and I are sitting there having a very pleasant conversation with our guest in the dining room when I hear the front door open and then a strange sound coming from the front living room. Say, what's that? I go and see that the kids have tossed one of those small turning lawn sprinklers into the house and then turned it on. After a few choice words, I grabbed the sprinkler and tossed it onto the front lawn, and I came back in soaking wet with our guest laughing his head off. The kids were smart enough to avoid me for quite a while after that. Another thing a parent should know is that if you agree to have a pet, it's the adult that will be the one taking care of the pet, no matter what the kids say and no matter what you try to enforce. I remember saying no pets for years, but eventually was persuaded to the idea of having rabbits in the house. We went through an organization called the House Rabbit Society, who worked with the shelters to find good homes for pet rabbits. One of their requirements was that each member of the family go to the shelter and spend time with the rabbits to make sure that everyone agrees to the adoption. One day after work, I go to the shelter and there's a wall full of really cute and pretty rabbits, except for these 2 grungy-looking barn rabbits huddled in the back of their cage. Of course, those are the 2 my kids are interested in. The attendant removes the 2 rabbits, Bunny and Clyde, and attempts to place them in a caged area. But just as she puts Clyde, the male rabbit, down, he headbutts the opening area of the cage and escapes. The attendant starts to run after him, but she can't catch him. The attendant, after falling a couple of times, calls for some help, and only after a while are they able to get this rabbit back in the cage. And I'm thinking, what the heck? There are, of course, endless stories I can tell. When we were young and the kids were young, it was a total panic. It does no good to look back and comment on what you did and didn't do when you were 25 or 30 years old. Some parents raise their children with a very strict regime, and sometimes it works out well, and sometimes they get a child or children where it clearly does not. Sometimes you should be able to provide or do something that for some reason you're not able to provide or do, and life goes on. Advice and opinions are not helpful for parents. Sharing of resources and commitment of time are. Teaching a child a skill, reading to them, or just walking and talking with them are all important help that you can provide to young parents. My daughter Shira once asked me, "What's a good part of raising kids?" I said, "Well, you see everything as if the world is totally new, everything for the first time. And the adult really benefits when they can see the world through that lens. Until next time, I wish you a very pleasant week. Bye now.